Hey everyone, welcome back to Code with Ro. If you're new to our channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to stay updated for our coding journey. Today, we're venturing into the world of CSS Grid, a powerful layout system that allows us to create complex and responsive layouts with ease. So let's dive in and go ahead and get started crafting some layouts. CSS Grid is all about defining a grid structure for our HTML elements and placing them exactly where we want within that grid. It's like playing Tetris with your web content. Let's get started with a simple CSS structure. So first, I'll start off by creating a div element with a class of grid container. Now in that div, I'll create 6 div items from 1 through 6, which is a class of grid item. Now I'll hit Control Save, and you'll see it pop up on the right side of our screen here. By the way, this extension is called Live Server. It allows us to see our code in live time. So now I'll go to our style.css and I'll type in and I'll start designing our grid container. So let's do dot grid container, and I'll do open bracket, and I'll type in display grid. Next, I'll type in grid template columns and repeat 3, 1 fr. By setting display grid on the container, we activate the grid layout. The grid template columns property defines 3 equal columns using 1 fr, which stands for fraction of the available space. And then we'll add a grid gap of 10 pixels, which properly adds some space between our grid items. And now I'll hit Control Save, and you'll see them split up in 3 columns with the exact spacing for each of them. So they'll look a lot more organized. Now let's create a more complex layout with different size items. So in grid container, I'll change grid template columns to repeat 4 instead of 1. And I'll add a grid template rows of auto. Now I'll hit Control Save, and now you'll see 4 columns, and because we have 6 items, it's not going to be able to show 8 because we have spaces for 8, but it'll show up to 6. And now what I'm going to do is add CSS for grid item, and in this case, let's do nth child of 1. This will only affect the first item of our grid items. And let's do grid column of 1/3, and we'll add a grid row of 1. And now hit Control Save, and you'll notice that now this is taking 1/3 of the space. And now I'll add some CSS for the second one. So I'll do dot grid item of the nth child, and now for this one I'll type in 2, so that this will only affect the second div. So I'll copy paste these, and I will just paste them here and just change the numbers. So I'll change grid column to 3/5, and I'll change grid row to 1/3. And now what you'll notice is that now 1 and 2 are both taking the entire top row. Our first item is taking 2 of our spaces for our column in the row, and 2 is also taking 2 of the spaces. So it pushed the 3 down. And now we'll go ahead and copy these again. I'll copy paste the whole thing, but instead of the second item, this time we're doing the third item. And for this, I'll just do grid column of 1. And for the row, I will do grid row of 2. And now when I hit Control Save, you'll see that nothing changed. But when I do grid column of 4, when I change the dot grid item of the 4th and hit Control Save, nothing has also changed. So here we've defined a grid with 4 columns and 2 rows. We then specify the start and end lines for the grid items using grid column and grid row. This allows us to create a layout where items can span multiple columns or rows. And that's your introduction to creating layouts with CSS Grid. As you can see, Grid gives us incredible control on how we position the sides and elements on the page to see what kinds of layouts you can create. In our next lesson, we'll dive deeper into Grid and explore more advanced techniques. If you have any questions or want to share your creations, drop a comment below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe for more coding tutorials. Happy coding, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, and hit that subscribe button.